Well, good morning. Good to see everyone out for our Sunday. This is a good Sunday school crowd tonight, today, and excited about you being here. We've got Bill Prince is going to be with us all day, and he can kind of tell you his testimony and that type of thing. I'm sure how he got into this. And Bill, I was just thinking, actually, when you first began this ministry, you was here. The first time you come here, you was just getting started, wasn't you? You retired and got in this. You was a businessman, but he can tell you all that. And but I'm excited. He just does a wonderful job. Like we said, if he's still got some spots, if you want to have a private counseling this week, just let Connie know, and we can get you scheduled for that. Like I said, so he'll be speaking, like I said, during Sunday school hour, during our church time. Come back for discipleship training at 5 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock in our evening worship service. And I know you're just going to be blessed through his ministry today as he just talks about biblical principles for finance, okay? So, Bill, I'm going to ask you just come on, all right?
Okay. I'm on? Good. Yeah, he mentioned it first time I came here, actually 1996, something like that. I came by here. That road was not over the mountain, the new one. And I went up the old one. And so we used to have a place in Crossville. And we went up and down this road a few times going back and forth to Atlanta. And so I noticed the church, you didn't have that sign out there then. That's a long time ago. It was about 2006 or 7. When I first came by here, I was not in ministry at all. Although, as a vocation, I've been a Sunday school teacher for over 40 years. And I used to hate it when I taught Sunday school and the preacher would get a guy to come in or a lady or whatever, and depending on the situation, and take my time and give it to somebody else, because I love teaching Sunday school. And but then I learned later on, most of the time the preacher knows better than I do, and so I learned to yield my time with a good spirit. I have to admit, the first couple of times I had to do it, that took some getting used to, because teaching Sunday school is one of my favorite things to do. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I will say I was a businessman until 1999. I got rid of the last business I had, and I had been licensed to preach for 10 years and never had surrendered. I told my wife then, I said, if I'm ever going to be a preacher, I need to go ahead and do it. And so I put out resume, all kind of stuff like that to try to get connected up with the church. I figured the churches would just jump all over me, but it didn't work like that. And so after about a couple of months of doing that, now if she was here, I would have already done this. Got this stuff out of my pocket, because I have a tendency to rattle stuff and what have you. Plus, she always makes sure I got my pants zipped up, my hair combed, that kind of stuff, so I guess I'm all right. I try to check myself out. Anyway, some guys did ask me to teach a men's conference. I see where y'all got a men's conference coming up. And we did a survey in the church, asked men and asked ladies, gender-specific survey, what people would like to be taught during this conference. What the men should be taught during the conference is what the women survey said. And the men is what would they like to be taught. But anyway, it came back finances on both sides of that. And it was about the number one thing that people wanted some more information on. So I cobbled together some messages, and one thing, this will be the third time I've had this session in this particular auditorium. And I use the same information pretty much, because I found out long time ago. The Bible doesn't change. What was true when I first came here still is. So I taught the lessons that the Lord led me to prepare, and a man came and said, out of the audience, and said, we need to do this. All over America, people need to hear this word. Well, I said, well, there's other people doing it. I don't see why we need to reinvent the wheel. I'm supposed to be a preacher, but God called me to do this, and I've been doing it off and on when I was healthy, all the time when I was healthy, now for 20 years. And I've been 26 states, I guess, altogether, and over 100,000 people. I've done private session counseling now. I'm between 4,000 and 5,000 private session counseling meetings. So my wife can't stand drooling, and the older I get, the more I drool. So have to wipe my face every now and then. Anyway, that to give you a little bit of background. So I got out of business. I went into ministry, and I've about spent all my money doing this. But it's been a joy all the way. And Brian can tell you, I've been to Pennington Gap. You know where that is, don't you? I preached all over Lee County up there where Brian used to. You were a youth man, youth guy up there at First Baptist, right? I was out in the coal mines where I went. But anyway, I want to share with you some principles that are unchanging concerning biblical truth about finances this morning. Now, some of y'all got a handout that you could follow along and fill out. I was here one time and I came back 4 or 5 years later. Now, which one do you have? That's for the next one. We try to get one per couple or something like that out there, so hopefully you got something. If you don't, I tell you what, I shouldn't tell you this, but I will. When you come back this afternoon, I'll give you a filled-in copy of it so you can have it for your records, and it'll be free of charge. I won't charge you for it. So I was here one time, and I came back about 5 years later, and some of you still had the notes from when I was there the first time. Well, if you still got those notes, they'll still be pretty good. The first verse I want to drill in on right now is called Proverbs 22:7. The borrower is a servant to the lender. I figured out when I was here before last, Brother Brian, it was 2011, because I was elected that year to the executive committee of the Southern Baptist Convention. This is my 8th year, and 2019. So the first year, when you get elected, you don't even have to be there. Your name's on the list. They get you approved, but then for the next 8 years, you have to be there. This is my 8th year. And so I've been on your executive committee for the last 8 years, and a bunch of meetings and talking. In the other day in Nashville, Tennessee, I called out one of the leaders of our convention because they were a situation where they're making, some of our students are using federal student loan money to get to be preachers. And I said, that's the fundamental principle. The borrower is servant to the lender. A preacher boy doesn't need to be a servant to the federal government for a loan. And so we had a nice conversation about that. It wasn't the first time I'd brought it up, but there's only one of our schools that does that. And they're trying to phase it out. The leader of it didn't get them into it. It was some of the trustees who wanted their children to be able to do it. It's basically how it came about. But believe me, the borrower server to the lender. Right now, there's more money owed to the federal government for education because the rules were relaxed under certain administrations, and it just went wild. And it's almost $1 trillion that's out on loan to students, and who knows how they'll ever pay that back. But I'm a student of Georgia history. I was born in Georgia. I live in Georgia. I was educated over in South Carolina. But listen, Georgia was, the idea was to form a colony of people that they could let out of prison that was in prison for debt and bring them to the colony and give them freedom and a chance to make it on their own. Well, once they got about the first 200 people over there, that went out the window. But the original colonists, I will call them, that's how they were came to be colonists and settling the state of Georgia down near Savannah. Now, we don't have debtors' prisons like they did in England in those days. I mean, they were horrible places. They locked people up, couldn't pay their bills. But what we do have now is the prison is a psychological prison. The Bible warns us about it. If you get in that prison, you're going to be a servant to the one that holds the note. So, how can you tell if you're in spiritual bondage? I'm going to run through this pretty quick. Like I say, I give it to you this afternoon. You come, you'll have it printed out, all filled in. But let me just share this with you. If you're putting daily expenditures on a habitual basis on one of these things, and the key word is because of a lack of funds, in the booth, there you go, because of a lack of funds. Now, I got a prize I'll give somebody that gets the right answer. What have I got in my hand? Who said what? Hadn't heard it yet. What is this? No? What is it in its present form? What is this? Yeah. Nobody wants my present I'm going to give them. What is it? No. Go back to the card. Somebody said credit, somebody said gift. You haven't got it right yet, but it. No. I hate those things. Who said that over here? Okay. I have a book that I published called The World Crisis and the Only Way Out. And I'm going to give you that book. Who said it? There you go. Listen, when you get one of these plastic cards with a strip on it that's got your data put into that magnetic memory on that thing, it's a charge card. It can be a friend. It becomes an enemy when you don't pay it in full when the bill comes. You determine whether or not a charge card becomes a credit card. It's just a tool. Business people use them. Anybody can use them. And you can delay payment. You can do all kinds of little favors if you got like this one right here gives me points where I can stay in a hotel for no charge if I run enough money through this card. It doesn't cost me anything really because they don't charge me to use it. I pay the bill when it comes in full. I never pay interest. And there's a lot of things I can say that I didn't do right when I was growing up, and I mean a bunch of them. But one of the things was that I did get right for my wife and I. As far as I know, we never have paid any installment loan type interest. We've had home mortgages and we've had capital items like automobiles financed, but I learned early on it costs you way too much to use short-term credit, especially credit card rates. If you miss one payment, they'll charge you a fee. Then you miss two and they'll go up on your rate. The first thing you know, you can be paying 30% interest. I've had lots of people I've helped that have had 30% interest. And then I've had some who never paid any interest at all. They just want to learn how to get a little better with what they were doing. So if you got a charge card, don't turn it into a credit card. Pay the bill in full. As we go through the day, you're going to find out that I do not prescribe to what I call consumer debt, consumer credit. You watch it, wear it, eat it, enjoy, entertains you, or whatever. If you can't pay for it, don't do it. Just learn that and you'll be light years ahead. If you're not there yet, I can help you get there. The Bible tells us in 1 John 2:15, love not the world, neither the things of the world. Yet we have people in the church who are buying things they don't need with money they don't have to keep up with people they don't know. And I think if you knew them, you might not even like them, but still you want to catch up with them. And then what happens when you catch up with them? They refinance. It starts over. So don't play that game. Stay away from consumer credit debt. I don't care how many times that guy comes on there with my pillow or my sheets or my whatever it is he's got now. If you can't pay for them when the bill comes, just use a book for your pillow, or like Jacob, use a stone. And so if you're delaying paying a bill that is due, if you can't make your financial obligations, you can't pay a bill that is due from one month to another, that could be a sign of financial bondage. That could be a sign of financial bondage. I've got one more gift I'm going to give away. This should be easy. In America today, how is the value of your name measured? What'd you say? You said score. You won the prize. And it might have been a tie, but he was closer. I'm deaf. I'm going to give you one of my books too, okay? Listen, the Bible tells us that in Proverbs 22:1, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. And the way your name is measured in today's society is by your credit score, FICO score, whatever you want to call that. If you go to buy insurance, make a job application, make a loan application, just about anything you do nowadays, they want your Social Security number so they can pull your credit report. And if you got a bad credit report, that gives you a bad name in the eyes of the people that are looking at it. I mean, they'll make an instant judgment. You go in there with a, 400 to 600, and if you're going to buy something, the rate goes up because you're what they call bad risk. And if you got a 800, try not to let anybody know because they'll keep sending you applications for credit cards. Amen. And my wife, who hadn't worked outside the home since our first child was born 48 years ago, every day she gets something in the mail, she'll come in and say, I've been approved for a $300,000 loan. she really hadn't had any income from outside the home in all those years. But she's got a great credit rating because she wanted a credit charge card with a picture of her dog on it. She got something from the kennel club that said, put the name of your pet on this charge card, or the picture. And so you send them your picture and they put it on there. Or you pick it off a list or something like that. Anyway, the picture of her dog is on her charge card. And I said, if you ever miss a payment, we're going to cut that thing up. The Bible does not forbid borrowing or lending, but it warns us about danger on both sides of the issue. Have you got that clear? There's danger there. Irk Russell was the football coach at Georgia, bald-headed guy who had the defense. He quit there and went down to Georgia Southern in Statesboro, Georgia to become a coach, a head coach. And when he got in there in the gym and he had all his recruits in there and he was trying to give them a pep talk and orientation, he had a man come in there and he had a croaker sack in his hand. And so they were on the bleachers. In that old gym, they had the bleachers came right down to the floor, about like a high school. Like you got one over here. You know what I'm talking about. And so he said, this guy's going to show you something. The talk he was giving was on drugs. And that guy threw that bag out there and a rattlesnake went skirting around on the floor out there. Then he had a hook where he could catch him. And those guys went up to the top. I mean, they went like that. And he said, that's the way I want you to fear drugs, the same way you fear that rattlesnake. And so I've always thought that was a great way to illustrate to God's people. That's the way the Bible thinks we ought to treat this consumer credit debt. Just act like it's poison. It's going to make you sick if you take a hold of it. It'll make your finances really sick. It will make them hurt worse than a toothache if you follow me. So a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. If you pay your bills, meet your financial obligations, and have a plan to pay whatever it is you spend. Borrowing to pay fixed expenses. Number 3, borrowing to pay fixed expenses. Listen to this. This stuff never changes. I've been preaching it for 20 years and just trying to help people understand these things are true. They're in the Bible. The Bible is true from cover to cover. Every word is true. It's true. It's in entirety. I accept it. It's God's word. It's the mind of God for us. Now listen to what it says here. Proverbs 19:1. Better is the poor who walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. There's a definition for integrity that I like. Some people say, well, it's truthful. No, truth is conforming your words to reality. That means you tell the truth, means that you tell your reality as it occurred. Integrity is conforming your reality to your words. It's just reversed. That means what you say you are is the way you live. You walk the walk that you talk. That's integrity. If you make an obligation, you live up to it. You don't wonder if you can do it. Sometimes in business, you get somebody that'll join you in a risk. You let them share a little bit with the profit if it comes in, when it comes in. And, you're looking for a future gain there. That's a different situation. But what you do with your name to protect it is you don't try to fill up both hands. Be satisfied with filling up one hand. Live the truth, tell the truth, plan you what you're doing, and you'll be better off. And number 4 on this list is becoming unaware of how much you owe. I might have told you before, when I got out of the business world, in one case, I retired from a corporation. I've been there for a while, and they wanted to get rid of some people. I wanted to do something else, so I took a little buyout. We put it in investments back at a time when they were just going up, up, up. Man, I started managing my investments. I told my wife I should have been doing this all my life. This is wonderful. Every day I'd look and I'd have another $1,000 or something like that, And I'd say, wow. why in the world did it take me 50 years to learn this? And so I didn't know it. I just didn't have the experience, because I found out a little while it can go down as fast as it can go up. And it can go down further than it went below where it was when it started. You know, that's a negative return right there. And so I showed her one time up there on my computer when she was in the sewing room. I said, come here, I want to show you something. She came in there and I moved my hand like that, and she looked at that number and she said, is that ours? I said, well, it's in the account. I could cash it out. I wish I had. Because it wasn't long. That thing said, if y'all remember, long about 99, 2000, we had a tremendous crash. And all that time I'd been going up, I thought I was smart. But when that thing started going down like that, I knew I was dumb. I didn't even know what to do to stop it. And so I finally decided I'm getting out of this mess. It was pretty much too late at that point. But let me tell you something. You think I called her in there to show her how much we lost on a given day? One time at breakfast, she wanted to do something with money-wise, and I said, our investments are not doing as good as they once were. And she said, don't tell me about that. You take care of it. She didn't want to know. So, hey, becoming unaware of how much you owe. I think about Solomon, supposedly the wisest man in the world. Short of God, if there's one person you want to know how they thought, it would probably be Solomon, if you're a Bible student. And so here's what he said when he wrote in Proverbs 27, 23 and 24. Be thou diligent to know the state of your flocks. Well, in his case, flocks were finances. Wealth was measured by livestock more than any other thing. If you read the Bible in the Old Testament, you see where they had herds of this and herds of that and flocks of this, that, and the other. And so he's saying, be thou diligent to know the state of your flocks. When your stuff is going bad, you're 7 times more likely to not keep up with it than when things are going good. When things are going good, you want to know how much that gain was yesterday. But when things are going bad, you don't even want to turn on the computer, much less see what they're sending to you. So, when do you think you ought to be more informed, making better decisions? It's when times are hard. You know, the people I've helped, I told you over 4,000 something. I got a book, I think it's in the truck with a number, something like 4,532 or something like that as of last week. And so, without fail, most people are better stewards when they have less money. When they get more, they get sloppy. They get careless. It's kind of like having a bucket full of water. If you had to walk a long way to bring water, you don't fill it up too full because you don't want it to slop out. Money's, if you get more money than what you really ought to, than what you need, you have a tendency to be sloppy with it. So, if you're not keeping track of your finances, you're living in sin. Do you hear what I'm saying? Bible says, be thou diligent to know the state of your finances. I was up at a place called Woodland, North Carolina. It's on the water. I could see the ocean out the window of the church. And a man that was a welder came in there the next day to meet with me in a private session, and he said, there's something you said yesterday that kept me awake all night, and it just kept ringing in my ears. Be thou diligent to know the state of your finances. He said, I can't live. He said, I've got all kind of customers, but I can't make a profit because I don't know what I did for who and how much I charged them, and the papers are all over the truck, in the tool bins and everywhere else. And He said, I'm a mess. I'm living in sin, just like you said. And so it was two women in the church trying to start a business. I said, I think we got a solution. And so those ladies began to be his bookkeeper. Then they became his office manager, and they let me know later on he's wealthy now. And his money's coming in and flowing right, and everything is good because keeping track of the finances. Having creditors calling or writing. I need to be through at 10:45 or so. Give a good 15-minute break. Okay, having creditors calling or writing. Jesus said in Matthew 5:25, agree with thine adversaries quickly. Listen to me good now, because I'm fixing to teach you a principle that will serve you well for the next 10 years. If I ever come back here again, I'll teach you this same principle again. Because sometimes people don't get it the first time around. And this is the third time here, which is, I love going back to places where I've already been, because people can say, they tell me all the time, you know you were right. You know you were right. All that kind of stuff. And I said, no, I wasn't right. But I know the Bible's right. I've made lots of mistakes. But this Bible, it's right. Now, listen to this principle. People will put up with most anything, but they will not be put up with being left in the dark. Think about yourself. Do you like to be wondering about something you should know about? This is what I'm talking about here. If you owe somebody something and you can't meet that obligation, you better communicate. Agree with an adversary quickly. What most people do, I'm telling you, if you do this, you're not in the minority. They avoid communicating when they can't meet an obligation. Some of them even hide from the lender. And they will burn up all the goodwill that lender has got for them, just hiding from him and not communicating. So when he finally catches up with you, or she does, you know what? They're mad. You burned out all their goodwill. They're going to get you. They're going to put their foot on your neck. The thing you should do is contact them, tell them your situation. Almost anybody you owe anything to will try to help you get over the hump you're in at that point. They will help you because they want to collect their money. They don't want to have to be chasing you down to find it. They want to have a good arrangement with you and try to get what they can before if it does go to failure, they want to get what they can get before it does. And they want to help you. I've seen, man, we've worked out all kinds of stuff for people. But don't leave them in the dark. Nobody's going to put up with that. I ran a company one time and we had a pretty big payroll, and I told my employees, I said, people don't put up with being left in the dark, and they won't accept their paychecks being wrong. We're going to get this payroll right. So when we give somebody their pay, it's going to be equal to what they're supposed to get. And you want somebody mad at you, mess up their check. You want somebody else mad at you, hide from who you owe. And if you have creditors calling or writing, that can be a sign of financial bondage. Taking out of savings to pay regular bills. You know, we all have to have a place to live. The psychologists put up a list of the things that are important to people. And what the first thing people think of immediately, if you have a little work group and try to decide this list, is we got to have air to breathe, water to drink, then food to eat, shelter. I don't know what comes next, electricity or cell phones. One of the two. I see people go hungry to have that cell phone, man. I'm telling you. When they first started going popular like that, the woman, I said, how come you got so many cell phones? She said, well, children got one. I said, well, you got a 4-year-old got a cell phone? He said, Yeah, he got one. I said, well, what's he need with a cell phone? She said, well, we have to keep up with it. I said, well, where's he going? He's 4 years old. But I've seen them. About every 4-year-old you see now, when they stop to do something, they want mama's phone to play on it till the time comes back, till they get ready to go somewhere else. And so, excuse me, people will spend their savings on non-essentials. Discretionary spending is what I call it. And so, if you have non-discretionary expenses, if you have a house payment, if you need a car to go to work and you have a car payment, you know you're going to have air to breathe. God gives us that free. And most of the time it's healthy to breathe. Water, there's plenty of it down there in Big Brush Creek down there? It's running wall to wall right now. But the stuff you have to pay for, that's your essentials for your life, you ought to have a plan to pay that without having any thought about credit or anything else. So you shouldn't have to take out savings. You know, most of the time when we have a savings account, it's created for a purpose. And it might be security, or you might be saving money to buy something, a big purchase or something like that. But anyway, it could be for retirement. Who knows? Every now and then I think America is fixated on retirement. In my reading, I don't see a thing in the Bible about retirement. Nothing in there. And yet, 9 out of 10 conversations down at Hardee's when the guys are down there drinking coffee is how they retired young, or how many more months they got to work before they can retire, and all that kind of stuff. And I say, not biblical, not biblical. If you can work, you ought to work. So, I'm on about my 5th career, and I ain't planning on stopping if I can help it, if the Lord will keep me going. So, don't take out your savings to pay regular bills. You need to have a plan to take care of your regular bills, or either don't move in with your mama or move in with your kids or whatever. But don't wipe out your savings for non-discretionary type spending. Taking out of savings to pay regular bills can be a sign of financial bondage. Taking out new loans. Well, let me go back. I want to give you this verse, Ecclesiastes 4:6. Better is a handful with quietness than both hands full with vexation and travail of spirit. I love King James Scripture. I got all kinds of Bibles and I study all of them, but when I speaking to people, I like to use the King James thing because, man, they put it like it is. Better is a handful with quietness than both hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. If anybody's in here that's ever had travail, which is a word they use, is the kind of trouble that a woman has when she's trying to deliver a child, a struggle, painful, agony, vexation of spirit, man. When you get down in your spirit, that's when the opioids kick in. You don't want to start taking drugs and all that kind of stuff. So just stay away from the problem in the first place. Kill the root. Number 7, taking out new loans to pay old loans. We got 5 minutes, and I'm going to finish in 5 minutes. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 5:4, again, Solomon says, pay that which thou hast vowed. Taking out new loans to pay old loans can be a sign of financial bondage. Sometimes the refinance of a big debt is advisable if the collateral is good, the rates change. You can get most of the time when you look at a mortgage, if you can improve your mortgage rate by 2%, that's generally the breaking point right there. If it's less than 2, if you can't make a better, like go from 5 to 3 or 7 to 5 or whatever, doesn't make sense. It costs money, closing costs, to do that. And it takes you too long to make that money back with your savings. But you get a better percentage up there, and that makes a little sense. But we don't always recommend people to do that, because what a lot of people do when they take a new loan to pay an old loan, they borrow some more. They borrow some more. They get some cash out somehow or another, and they waste that as a general rule. Now, it may be some situations where it has to be done, but most of the time, you avoid doing that if possible, because it leads to more bondage. The more debt, the more bondage. And just to settle this question, we hardly ever recommend anybody to sell the equity in their house for anything. A lot of people sell it to buy a car, get a home equity line of credit, and do this, that, and the other, and go to Disney World. No, I wouldn't advise that myself. I teach a principle. It's called whole management. Whole management. It's not really a new theory of debt management, but it's like this. Whole management is simple of debt in the debt process. Don't dig your hole any deeper than you have to. And if you find yourself in a hole, don't dig any deeper. Stop and start filling it up. That's hole management. And the better you manage your hole, the happier your life's going to be. That's pretty simple. Now, I'm on number 8. Married couples arguing about finances. Proverbs 15:7 says, "He who is greedy of gain troubleth his own house." That was written a long time ago, but it's so true today. One little testimony, and we'll just let them give you the rest of the words and the thing. This is about as far as I ever get on this thing during Sunday school anyway. But I want you to have all that other information. About 1980-something, I went in the house to pay my bills. I had 3 children. My wife, modest home. I had a good job in the town where I was. I mean, it was right on top of the stack of the jobs in that town. If they had a TV station there, if they wanted to know what the city leaders were thinking about, sometimes they would call me and they'd get my opinion. I was on TV several times for speaking on things and of that nature, and so it got so. I was on there once a week for the church, even though I was a layman. I had to give a report, and we had it on TV. Anyway, my wife told our kids, said, "Y'all go out in the yard. He's fixing to write out bills, and you don't want to be here." Because I was raised in a house where we didn't have any money, none. And if I asked for money, I wouldn't have to get up off the floor, but I knew it wasn't a proper thing to do around my house because there wasn't anything to give, really. But I always, like any kid, I wanted something. I wanted this, I wanted that. So I grew up having a bad attitude about dealing out money, because that's the way I saw my parents do. And as it turned out, I sat there and I thought, my wife was saying my kids got to go out in the yard because I'm going to have a bad attitude. It's going to be a mean time in my kitchen. And I thought for a second, and I thought, you a Sunday school teacher? You a deacon? You're on the personnel committee? You're on the finance committee? You work in the men's ministry? You got a business in town with a bunch of employees, and you can't even pay bills without your kids being sent out in the yard? You need to change something. You need to change something. That's what she was saying to me. It came, she didn't say it like that, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. I told her, I said, what you just said is going to change our lives. I said, because, you know, I should be thankful that God has provided a means to meet all of these obligations that I have. And of course, we took care of everything. We didn't have anything. We hadn't paid any interest on stuff. We needed it, we saved and bought it, or we figured out a way to get it without charging it. So here's what I'm saying to you. I said to her, from this day on, every time we pay our bills, it's going to be a time of celebration. We're going to celebrate the fact that God has met our needs again. Amen. You know what that word in the Bible is? Ebenezer. You sing a song, I see a lot of people in here used to use the hymnal at some point, may still do. And they said, here I left mine Ebenezer. You remember that? Everybody ever wondered what they meant? Ebenezer means hitherto thou hast met our needs. That's what they named the well. God met their needs. And so from then on, when we paid our bills, it was Ebenezer time, man. We just prayed the Lord, made a little prayer, and we were happy. And the kids could watch us. They could stay and play on the floor or whatever they wanted to do, because Daddy had got over the hump with that. Now, that may just be worth the price of admission this morning. If you're having some conflict in your house at bill paying time, plan better, meet your needs, and make it be a time of celebration. If y'all want to run those words on up there, the people that have the outlines you want to fill in the blank, they'll put them up there for you. Anybody that comes back this afternoon will get one filled out already, but we're taking a break now. Brother Brian, I'll turn it over to you, but you can get this off the screen. They'll put them up there for you.